Yeah, we're gonna record. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are coming to you with another story of hope. And I have Jamie here with me. And yeah, I love these stories. I was just saying to Jamie before we started recording that I just feel like these stories really move the needle for so many of you because you get to hear from real live people who overcame the odds, right? And I guess, yeah, I mean, Jamie, tell us. I have a testimonial that you had emailed us, but you and I've never personally worked together, right? You did a reboot of mine, so yeah. I mean, give us history on your case. Tell the girls what they, yeah, where you've been.
So I have two kids already. They are 9 and 7,
Okay.
and those pregnancies were super easy. It happened fast. The pregnancies were great. Just had no problems, and decided for a while that I wasn't going to have any more kids. And then things changed. And about, I think I was like 38
Okay.
when I started thinking about like maybe I have, some time or another chance here to have another kid. And so I started thinking about it and did all the research about all the, potential issues that could come up. And, I just wanted to really kind of know what I was in for and what the risks were. And I thought, what, I got to try it, I got to go for it. So we tried naturally for 2 years, 3 years, and got pregnant 4 times and ended up having 4 miscarriages. And it just felt like it was an odds game. I was like, I'm just going to keep trying, and one of these is going to work.
Testing? Were you testing tissue with the miscarriages? Do we know if there was abnormalities? No. Okay.
No, didn't test. Just thought they were flukes, or
Yeah.
I always felt confident that I could get pregnant. So I'm like, I just gotta keep trying, and I, as long as I felt up for it and, I could recover and kind of get back into it, I thought I was okay. Um,
And one more question. How far along were the miscarriages?
they all were around like 8 or 9 weeks,
Oh,
either.
so decent. Like you saw a heartbeat on all of them?
No, let's see, saw a heartbeat on, I think only one of them.
Okay. And they all
Maybe,
stopped growing then, like around that 8 or 9 week appointment.
yeah, so like either made it to that appointment and no heartbeat, or I saw the heartbeat once and then it miscarried a couple weeks later. So
And you needed DNCs or you did natural miscarriages?
both. I tried
Okay.
the natural way and then had to do a couple DNCs.
Okay.
And my first two pregnancies were C-sections. So
Okay.
I had some surgeries in there, and
Yeah.
I didn't kind of find out until later into this process, like, how that
Scar
can affect
tissue.
like scar
Yeah.
tissue and stuff. So by the fourth one, I got a DNC and I was with a new doctor because I had moved. And she just kind of looked at me and said, why aren't you doing IVF? And I
Right.
thought, well, I'll just try to do the free and easy way. you know. And she was like, well, it's probably just like an abnormality. Like you're older, like by then I'm like 40, 41. And she's like, you just have to go in and get the good egg and use that one. Otherwise you're just going to keep miscarrying.
Yeah.
So that finally kind of hit me and was like, okay, I need to, if I really want to do this,
Right.
I gotta go that route. So I went right into IVF like the next month after that. Found a doctor and started doing, all the tests to kind of get ready and blood work. Um, and then in January of 2023 is when I started the first round.
Okay.
And I was just going with like what the doctor was saying. And, I just asked him the questions. I said, should I be on any supplements or prenatals or, exercise? Like, what else could I be doing? What are the other things? And he was just very straightforward of like, just do what I tell you. Like, just do the medicine. Just do,
And at this point, you're 41 or 42?
yeah, 40, I think 40. So I turned 41 in April.
Okay.
So I just kind of went with what he said, okay, just follow the rules, like just do the medications, like do how they do it. And that first round, you are just kind of doing what everybody else does.
Yeah.
They're just giving you the medication that everyone else did. They don't know really like about your body, your case, like, your thing.
It's a trial run is what I often say. Unfortunately, it's an expensive and pulls on your heartstrings, but it's a trial run. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that round, did the retrieval, got 9 eggs, 4 fertilized and went to testing, and then I came out with 1 viable.
Okay.
So that really showed me that those, of all those eggs and all those
Yeah.
miscarriages I had, the odds, it
Yeah.
just, there's maybe one good one there,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of
25%. Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah.
So before we did the transfer of that one, he had seen some scar tissue just on some scans and
Right.
suggested we do a
Hysteroscopy.
hysteroscopy.
Hysteroscopy. My
And
favorite medical procedure.
yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. So we did that, and he said, like, I got everything out, like everything looks great,
Okay.
it's all clear. And up until this point, I actually hadn't had a normal period since the last miscarriage.
Yeah.
This is now like 4 or 5 months with no period.
That's a sign too of scar tissue in my clinical experience of like, it's a sign that, yeah, the lining isn't growing properly or, yeah, and things aren't shedding properly. Right. And you
Yeah,
might not be ovulating, right? Were you ovulating during those times or you don't know?
yeah.
Right.
So he was saying, I can still go get the eggs without you having a period.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, okay. So once we did that, then I still hadn't had a period, and he was like, well, we can just give you, do a medicated cycle and we'll transfer, and that should work. And it didn't.
All right.
We did all the medication, and he thought the lining looked good and that it was okay to transfer. And he actually had trouble doing the transfer, like even kind of like getting up in there to even put the egg in.
Probably
Like,
more scar tissue, right?
it was kind of painful, and it was like kind of a struggle. You could just tell something was like wrong. Like,
Yeah.
like this is probably not how it usually goes. So we did the transfer, and then it just didn't take. So I just never got a positive.
Which is odd for you because it seems like every time you basically tried, you got pregnant and.
Yeah. And so like, why did that work?
Mhm.
So so I had, and I only had enough in the insurance to do like 1 more round. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm like halfway. That didn't work. Do I want to move forward? Like, should I do it again? Um, Knowing that's basically the last time. And
Yeah.
so I had to do like some soul searching just kind of in that middle time of like, what went wrong? What did we learn? What can I bring into the next one? And I just kind of felt this like momentum of like, if I don't just kind of go now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of get out of it. I don't know. I just felt like let's use this energy to kind of keep moving forward. So we end up moving right forward with another retrieval. Still hadn't gotten a period. And same thing where I got 9 eggs, 4 fertilized for testing, and I got 1 viable.
Same odds. Yeah.
So um so now getting into how we're connected. So that retrieval was on May 31st. And I started your course on June 1st, the next day. And I knew that I was already starting to like watch your videos. I had heard about you from a friend. I think I had already ordered the egg diet book.
Okay. And the course you started was the fertility reboot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I knew that I was like kind of late. That like I didn't do the in the right order of like, oh, I should have probably done this like 3 months ago.
But ish, I still would have argued, like, had you and I worked together, the issue, kind of contrary to the stats. Sure, not all of our eggs are good, but I would have made the argument it was the uterine environment over your egg quality. That would have been my argument from the get-go. And my first recommendation would have been a hysteroscopy, probably. So in my opinion, saying to you of like, you were making good eggs. So you kind of probably needed me more from an inflammatory perspective and like anything else, like just to kind of clean things up to create a hospitable environment more than your eggs were all bad.
Right. Right. So that's basically what I went off of like,
Yeah.
well, I now what's in my control is to get the environment ready, and like what can I do to get my body ready. And so I remember sitting there and being like, 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 should I do this? And I'm like, if I don't just like spend this $100 or whatever it is after all this,
I know. What's
what am I doing?
$150? That's why I price it that. I'm like, just get in here and do this. Yeah.
Like what? Like if I'm not willing to invest that in myself, like for this last time, this last round, like what am I doing? So
Yeah.
that was really the start starting to think about all of the things that I could be doing differently this time around. And, knowing my doctor wasn't going to tell me any of that stuff. And then I had to go find it on my own. So now that's like my big learning from this is like, you can't just listen to one person. You can't just have like one expert with you. You have to like really go out there and search and advocate for yourself and like find other experts, just other opinions, or just
Yeah.
hear other things, because there's so many things out of your control. It's like you need to figure out some things that are in your control. So I went for it anyway and started that. And the doctor had been saying when he did that retrieval that he's like, yeah, I think I saw some more scar tissue when I was doing the retrieval. So he's like, let's kind of like wait it out here and then we'll see if you might need another surgery to like.
Yeah, another hysteroscopy, right?
So that was kind of scary of like, oh, she's like, is this scar tissue ever gonna go away? Like, does it
Yeah.
just grow back? Like, what's going on? So I started the course on the first, and I got my period like 2 weeks later.
And did you stuck to it? Like you did it as in earnest as,
I
yeah.
did it
Okay.
by the book. Like, I was waiting for that. I had tried other, cookbooks and other ways of eating or whatever, and I was just at the point where I was like, can someone just tell me like exactly what to eat? Like, I'll do it. Just tell
Yeah.
me what to eat, what to
Yeah.
do. And it's like, I'm ready. So
Yeah.
having that book that just was like laid out day one, here's what you do, day two, day three, and why, and like it was just like, yes, this is what I need right now, and I'm just gonna do it, see if it works. Like,
Mhm.
it's not gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And so once I understood like the philosophy behind it, and the anti-inflammatory aspect to it of detoxing, and I had obviously gained some weight from the retrieval process and all the meds.
Yeah.
So I wanted to detox from all the meds and, get my body back right. And so I got the period and it was like normal period. I was like, like, how did this just happen? Like all of a sudden, like 8 months later, like I get like a normal
Yeah.
perfect period. Like what just happened? And I was like, well, it's gotta be something, like I gotta be doing something right at this point.
Mhm.
And then I had my checkup with the doctor on the 21st. So now I'm like 3 weeks into the diet. I had just gotten through like the liquid part.
Yeah, the hard part. Good to know.
And I'm seeing my doctor now for the first time since that retrieval. And he's showing me the results that, I have one viable egg. And he does a check to see, what I think he might have done a water test, to see like
Yeah,
what
the saline sauna. Yeah.
he goes, wow, like, this looks great. Like, I don't see any scar tissue. Like, this is like, I can do everything I need to do here. Like, I think you're ready to go. You don't need surgery. And I was like, okay. And then he didn't even ask. I offered up. I said, well, I have been on this really gnarly detox. And he goes, well, whatever it is, keep doing it. Like it's working. I
Wow.
was like, okay.
Wow.
Thanks. And so he was like, well, do you want to schedule it like next month? Like, get your next period. And I was like, well, it's summer. I'm going on vacation. Like, I think I just need to like breathe. Like, let me just like live a little bit. Let me kind of like
Yeah.
do this diet a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't need to rush. Like now that I know things
Well,
are
you
working.
have the egg and now you know the uterus looks good. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, let's maybe get like
Never.
another period, like let's kind of, I just want to know that my body's working,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like, then it's the right time.
Yeah.
So I went out of town and I came back, and it was like a month later, like 30 days later from that appointment. And I was like, I went in on that day of my cycle. I should probably go in on that same day of my cycle to have him look again, to see if like everything's still fine. So I somehow got in like that day, realized I should go on this day. And he goes, yeah, everything looks great. Like whenever you want. And I was like, so he was like, so just come in like in another month, when you have your next period. And I was like, well, I was kind of like looking at the clock and I was like, well, like, what if we just like did it right now? Like, what day am I on? And he was like, well, he kind of was like, look at the calendar. And he was like, well, we have to probably give you a trigger shot like on Friday. And, you kind of just did an unmedicated cycle because your lining built up on your
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
So like I got to skip like those 10 days of
Yeah.
meds.
Yeah. Which is really nice. And also, if there was any underlying like endometriosis or something like that, sometimes those meds trigger that to be kind of more inflamed. Maybe I'm using very general terms, but just like more triggered. And that can impact the uterine environment too. So I wonder if, yeah.
I had gained a lot of weight, or was very bloated from like that last
And did
medicated
you
stuff.
lose weight doing ours, like the 30 days on the reboot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 10 pounds, like in those first couple weeks.
Wow. I know it's probably just inflammatory water weight. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so I knew that those meds didn't go well with me. I would
Yeah.
walk the patches, and it was like, oh, I just feel like huge, like this
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I get to skip that. I was like,
Amazing.
so
Okay.
I was like, kind of like, let's do this. Like, all right, I'm ready. Like, let's go. He was like, okay, well, I'd have to, give you a thing tonight, and we'll do it next Friday. Like we're going. And I was like, if you're open, if you can do it, I can do it. Let's do it.
Right.
And so we ended up transferring, and that was August 4th that we did the transfer, and it worked.
And yes, stand up and show everyone how it worked.
Now we're
Yeah. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
now 33 weeks.
So yeah, so for you, I mean, congratulations. It's like it's the best. So for you, you think everything you did, yeah, just made the environment and obviously the scar tissue or whatever that was he was seeing, which could have been a polyp, it could have been retained tissue. There's like multiple things it could have been, I suppose, went away, which is also fascinating. Were you doing like castor oil packs or anything like that? I talk about those like every
Yep,
freaking.
I
You were
did
doing
that.
castor oil
Yep,
packs.
I
Okay.
tried that. Yep, I
Yeah.
did the
And what
massage.
about supplements? What were you taking? Were you just doing the
Um, just prenatals.
okay.
Think I might have played around with some other ones that you recommended, but then it was like, I think I ended up like so many where I was just like, let me just do like,
Yeah, and so for transfer at the
yeah.
prenatal
Oh,
situation,
and
but
yeah,
probably in the lead up and fish
CoQ10.
oil and CoQ10. Okay. And then, I mean, how were those first few weeks in that first appointment? I'm sure was nerve-wracking for you.
Yep, yep. I had to go in every week for a scan, so we tracked it, really closely, and um, so every every week, it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy the whole process, and then all of the monitoring and everything, and but yeah, once it worked, and it kind of just my body kicked in, and I was nauseous and tired, and
Yeah. You
was
felt
all
like, okay, I'm pregnant, and you could tell. And then you also had confidence because you knew the embryo was tested, so you weren't worried about that piece of it.
yeah, yeah, like yeah. Whenever they did any of that kind of blood work, I was like, no, like we're probably good. Like I think we're
Yeah.
good. It should.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah. So
And then, so I guess too, now having gotten to the other side, I mean, I guess I have a couple questions. Like, obviously, you didn't give up hope, right? I think you kept going, and even with the losses. Um, but I don't know. I guess what kept you going? What was in your head that kept you going?
um, I don't know. It's like the miscarriages. I would see other people's stories about it, and it didn't hit me as like hard as maybe some people get hit with
Yeah,
it. Like that. It's like, and maybe it's because I already had a couple kids. That it was like, if any of this doesn't work, like obviously I'm still super grateful for the family I
yeah,
have, and
totally.
so I think they didn't devastate me. I wasn't like naming the kids like
Yeah,
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 they didn't have names, they didn't buy clothes. Like it wasn't like
yeah,
I was like really I was okay like waiting to like I felt like I was on the other side of things. So I just always just check in with myself and be like, okay, like that was two miscarriages. Like how many more miscarriages could you do? Like
yeah,
could you do another one? Could you do two more? Like what's the number?
yeah,
What's your
yeah,
badge of honor am I ready to
yeah,
wear at
yeah,
the end of this and say, well, I had 5 miscarriages, and, so I stopped. It's kinda I was kinda thinking of, like, what's my narrative, like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
story can I live with for the rest of my life? You
That's a beautiful way to put it, because I think that's it. Of like, I always say that, as well. Of if you're frowned upon or told you're too old or that your eggs are all bad or that your chances are 5% or 1% or whatever it is, um, are you going to let that statistic or that person's opinion of your health and fertility determine what you're willing to do or not do? And like, how are you going to be able to look back and live with that? Or
Mhm.
do you want to make the choices based on, what you want your story to be, or what you can live with.
Yeah,
So,
it's like, am I gonna live with, did I do everything I could? Did I do it? Because I knew, it's you're in its time frame, so it's like,
yeah.
did I do it all? And can I live with whatever happens, depending on
Mhm.
what I was willing to do at the time?
That's
And
it.
I even had like a family member in between the two rounds. They just felt so bad for me, they or they felt bad watching me go through it, and I didn't feel as bad, but they felt bad. So they were like, if you want to stop, if you want to quit, like you can't, like, don't do it for us.
Oh,
I was like, I this is my own thing, like if I'm doing it for everybody else, I won't last, I won't make it. I was like,
too much pressure.
yeah, I was like, I'm competing for myself, and this is just how I want to do it. But it still made me have to do a gut check of like,
Yeah.
should I stop? Like, would it be easier for everybody else
Yeah. Yeah.
to just kind of give up here? So that was a good moment for me to decide, like, no, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And then I think in retrospect too, you feel like obviously the combination, like getting the tested embryo and then I guess balancing your hormones, kind of reestablishing your cycle, reducing the inflammation, right? The two together made the magic happen.
Yeah, I mean, so thank you, thank you,
Oh,
to you
no, well,
because
thank you. I mean,
I,
it's an honor, obviously, but it's like I love too. It's like you just emailed and we're like, hey, I did the June reboot, and this is my story. And it was like, hey, you want to come live? And because I also think it's really valuable to show, um, at least the way I like to present my information, like I think it's really accessible to anyone. And you could be a self-starter type, do the 30-day program. You don't even have to do the 30-day program, but like the impact it made on you in just 30 days is profound and tremendous. Um, and yeah, and had maybe we coached together, maybe I would have gotten you to that hysteroscopy, before miscarriage number 3 or something like that. But like I also trust, I don't know, and I know you do too, because I can get that sense of like we're just always where we're supposed to be, and you trust the unfolding, and I trust that nugget in there, is the one who was meant to come through. And a lot of people in this spiritual world would say it's probably the same spirit every time, and then they now found the right vessel and the right body to come through in. So, from
and
that perspective too, like no losses, if you will.
oh my, like the first the embryo that didn't take, we love them. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
they, we love them
Totally.
because they taught us all the things and got to where I'm supposed to be. So I'm very grateful for that round I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And that's a beautiful place to be. And I love that because, um, you've gone through a lot of trauma too. And so it's like to be able to stay in that space of gratitude and yeah, I think also feel empowered that you took reins and said, I'm going to do these things and I'm going to do this for me and I'm going to wait to do my transfer. So bravo
And
to
the
you.
journaling, I had never journaled like that. It took me like weeks into the process to actually like, oh, okay, this they've been saying this, I should do this. And I finally picked up the journal and started writing, so there's things like you kind of block, you're like, nah, I don't want to do that, or I'm not gonna do that part of it. And then you're like, I should do all of it.
I
Why am
know.
I
No one wants to do the emotional part of the fertility reboot.
right?
Everyone gets pissed off when my group coaching sessions are only about the emotional piece. Like it's so funny. It's just like I know what to anticipate with the community every time. Everybody's like, but I my case questions answered. And I'm like, we're gonna go into the emotional stuff because this is the stuff I know you guys don't want to do. We're gonna go into it because it's important. And that's it too, of like, yeah, but I think you were already doing it. If you were gut checking it all along too, you were in touch and connected. But I'm sure you're also just on the hamster wheel of like, let's just get this done, let's get this done, versus like totally looking at all the traumatic events and individually processing them.
Mhm. And all the calls that you did, I always try to like sneak in a question. I was like,
Yeah,
I can't talk to her personally. Like, I'm gonna get her to at least answer one of my questions.
there you go. And I did. I hope I try to answer every single
You
question.
did, yeah, you did.
Um,
You did.
Yeah, no, I love it though, but I think it's such a good, I don't know. I'm just so happy for you and that you kept going. And I think that's the piece too. I get a lot of questions from women of like, and kind of what you said of like, is my narrative going to be 5 miscarriages? And then I say it's enough. women always ask me, like, how do I know when it's enough or when to stop or when to change course? And it just seems like for you, at least from my perspective, it was like it was fairly intuitive, or and it also just felt like the logical next step of like, okay, IVF, sure, that's out. Okay, let's do it. Transfer, okay, and then even pushing for that transfer, like I think that was really intuitive and interesting, and your doctor listened to you, all of those pieces. Um, but I always say, like, when versus like I don't think I think everybody's end point or shift point is really individual.
Mhm. And thanks to all the people that this is gonna help, and
Yeah.
that have already, I've already passed this along. This story was so
Okay.
easy to tell to friends or other people who are going through it. And be like, hey, you should try this. I don't know, it worked for me, but like, it's a book, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah,
video. Like, it's
yeah.
not that hard to follow, and
No.
just go for it and try it, check it
What do
out.
you have to lose too, right? You're going to learn about your body and the shifts. And I think you get empowered. And then also, I mean, maybe for you too. I mean, I think you sounded like you were verbal about what was going on the whole time, but you're also then in a community with others that have gone through similar, and it starts to feel less insane, I suppose, right? It's like, okay,
I
there's
think
other
that
people out there.
the community that came with the course was huge too. I mean, to see the people sharing stories and you can ask questions, it was like, it just it's like all the different parts, they all just kind of made sense, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like you need a
And it came
community.
together quickly for you. And I think part of it is too, you had the good embryo. Some girls are still in search of that, if you will. Um, but yeah, but the uterine environment, we can never underestimate that. And then we also never underestimate the inflammatory piece, even when there's that healthy embryo, that it still needs this environment. So you did it. We're so excited for you. So thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
And yeah, and thank you too for being one of our stories of hope, because we know these are watched a lot, and we know they're so inspirational to so many, and especially like a woman who did it in her 40s. So bravo. Yes. And then and your other two are excited for their sibling to come through. Yeah.
it's,
Aw.
it's really, I knew it would be like that, and I was just hoping for it and waiting for it, and you know brings the whole family together and brings so much joy to
And
everyone.
now
And
you feel complete. You get that sense of like, okay.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
You're
be
like,
proud of you. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
good. We're to the other side. And
Yeah.
then you have like 7 weeks left, huh? Maybe you'll go early. Yeah.
I actually have 3 weeks left. We're doing a
Oh,
early
you're gonna
C-section.
schedule? Good.
Yeah, so it's coming.
Well, congratulations. And keep us posted, send pictures. And then, like I said, I'm gonna send over a little gift to you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for watching too. And yeah, we'll be back soon with another story of hope. Thank you, Jamie. I'm gonna try and stop the recording. Okay.